changes have aroused my deepest curiosity about the functioning of the world.
Ask yourself tomorrow what you will do tomorrow, concrete action to change this world.
We are changed by stories. Because it's only when you have a story that you can make sense of the data, that you can actually use the data to understand what it means. And that's what the values quest of the Club of Rome is now setting out to do, to explore, working not with the usual suspects of the Club of Rome, economists and politicians and business people and the such like, but with artists and poets and musicians and songwriters and spiritual leaders and religious leaders and dancers and people who understand what the role of silence is, to actually explore recreating cultures, ethoses of compassion.
We have 7 minutes. What can politicians do in order to change, or how can we make them? Politicians have to use taxes to understand society's problems. Localization should find a middle growth. Creating a global currency.
Currency based on energy.
A little bit more radical. We should all get naked.
To get naked in the sense of, saying what they really mean.
Fundamentally, growth does not equal progress. And one of the things I would personally like to see in the next 3 days is that you begin to answer the question, what is progress and how should we measure it? Is it happiness? Is it exploration? Is it innovation? Is it technology? Is it spending time with our families or religion? What is progress? It's certainly not economic growth.
So what is necessary is decent, good, old-fashioned political organization of big groups of people into, forces behind fundamental solutions.
We have an extraordinary array of talent and diversity in this room. But when you do so, just think about where does your piece fit in the overall architecture of the change course that we will need. If we get that right, and if we look at the root causes and we start taking actions, we can actually be transformative. And that will require ideas.
I wrote down that there's a need to link with existing movements as well. So movements that might not be specifically about climate change, but working with them.
They're not enough aware, and they don't think about future generations, so this is a big problem really.
Yeah. We have green parties, but they're tiny, and there's just no real leadership there.
And now we're tired of the blame and shame game, make them feel guilty by making it the agenda of everything. Whatever we talk about, try to drag it to climate change. Whatever we talk about arms, weapons, and whatever, drag to climate change.
The government of this country or the governments of other countries that have legalized prostitution, they say that it's good for our society. You can have the choice. You can choose this life of the slave.
I think the human species always wants to ask why. And as long as we don't have an answer, we are going to search. And religion, at least in the past, has been quite capable of giving us a somewhat simplified answer to the complexities we see.
If we have basic needs, a lot of the...
Other things will change.
Yes, a lot of things will change. The basic needs are... They seem to be present here, but in Africa they are absent.
The reality is it's not a neutral system, that it does prioritize and value short-termism. Which means that oil is still cheaper than alternatives.
Forests or water, for instance, that we actually need for our survival, and not like keep on taking things out that make us money but have no value.
Create a new value system where things actually cost what they should cost in the short term, so depending on how much it costs to exploit them.
So everyone is a part of it, every woman, every man, every child, every old, every young.
You using your power as a consumer to drive change. Ultimately, like if you buy from here, not from here.
People would agree on because they would be properly informed.
And not just laws too, and how do we make government accountable to those laws that they have actually put in place?
Put in some more long-term aspects. How can we do that?
We are currently in the grip of a very, very sophisticated assault on our values, on our ethos, on our stories, on the narratives that we live in. And that is the Disneyfication of mythology, for example. It is that our icons are now things like McDonald's arches. and that our ethos is consumerism.
How would we ever dare think, that we could change something like an economy or a value system? Well, the answer is, when the time is right, things like this are possible. And the time evidently is right.
So that when we go back in all our diverse networks, we can bring these ideas with us and we're going to be listened to.
Our eventual goal is leading to action.
Use visual communication to reach out kids that environment problems are actually security issues.
Under UN Security Council.
Excellent.
Ask for curriculum changes to the schools would teach sustainability, climate change, and end of poverty, basically.
Get children who get an affection, a deeper love for nature, for instance.
The main leverage mechanism that we were going to work on was getting the message out.
Creating a project fund for local action. So a lot of us here have small little ideas, small little things which we can do. Artists have this unique capacity to really provide an alternative and to literally put it in front of your nose, and that sparks change.
We don't want to find solutions to specific problems. We want just to find a solution to this one problem, which is how do we make this change happen? How do we actually take the step from having these ideas to applying them?